Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Aaron, and today we're going to be taking a look at these two TVs, one from the mid-70s and one from the mid-80s. I got these as hopefully set pieces for some of the things I'm designing for the channel, and I have to test them, make sure that they are working. If they're not working, then they'll need a bit of repair. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today on the Retro Hack Shack. All right, so here's the hot pink Sony Trinitron TV. As you can see, this model number is KV1397R. And you can tell it's more modern, not just obviously by the looks of it, but also the fact that it has some digital buttons instead of analog buttons up here on the front. Over here we have a headphone jack, and I assume that would be stereo. Stereo was out at the time, so perhaps that's a stereo headphone jack. And then opening up this little compartment here, we've got hue, color, brightness, cable on or off. We have something called erase, something called add, not sure what that's for. And then we have picture controls, plus and minus. Over here on this side, we have a TV AV button, volume button, channel button. Obviously this had a remote at some point because there's a little window here for the infrared, and then we have power. The screen itself looks really, really good to the naked eye. No, doesn't look like anything's worn. I mean, it looks like it just came out of the factory. And while I wasn't able to find this particular model number in any catalogs, I did find the German Sony catalog, which shows this very similar set. And Sony was advertising these as the black Trinitron portables, and I think that's referring to the CRT itself. Before this, CRTs were kind of a gray color, as we'll see when we look at the other TV set, and these CRTs had either a different phosphor or something, or maybe a filter, which made the CRT itself look very black. It's also interesting here that they are advertising this as perfect to be used with computers, specifically the MSX2 model down here in the corner. Also, this color, I picked it up because it had this very 80s hot pink look to it. It looks like it should be featured on Miami Vice or something. And I assume that this is painted from the factory. It's painted plastic, but it doesn't look like someone had come along after the fact and spray painted this pink or anything. This actually looks like a factory finish that would have come from a factory. So perhaps Sony at this time was making these color TVs, so different color skins on them, different colors, I assume. I'll have to go see if I can find out any information on that, but definitely this pink one stands out like a sore thumb. If you don't like pink, you're not going to like this TV, but it definitely looks like something that one of my sisters would have had in her bedroom in the 80s. Looking at the side here, the only thing I wanted to point out is these carrying handles. They are really helpful, even though this isn't as heavy as the 70s TV that I'm going to take a look at. These handles really make it a lot easier to carry this TV around. So looking at the back, the inputs, I can see a ground here. I can see AV, video, and just one for audio. So maybe I take that back. Maybe this is just a mono television, not a stereo television. And then of course we have the cable hookup, or this could probably be dual purpose with an antenna, of course, as these things were meant to be back in the day. And then over here again, we have some stuff that is embossed into the plastic case here. Sony model number, some warnings here, serial number, and then also down here, interestingly enough, on this label, it says manufactured November 1986, and that's exactly the period I was going for. So November 1986 in this case. I'm assuming that this was for an antenna, probably, this little plastic thing here. Or maybe, actually, no, there's a hole up here for the antenna. So the antenna would go in the top up here in this. Maybe that's for a cord wrap or something. I'm not sure exactly. Okay, so without a test pattern to put on this, although I think I might have something that could generate a test pattern around somewhere. In lieu of that, it's always nice to be able to test these out with something that is familiar. And in this case, I figured since the Nintendo Entertainment System came out in February 1986 is when they did their broad release in North America, this would have been something that people probably with this TV would have played on the TV. So I figured, you know what? I know exactly what Super Mario should look like, what the colors should look like. So we'll hook that up and then we can see what it looks like on the TV and then correct things from there if it works. It may not even work. So let's go ahead and give it a try. First, the TV itself. Let's turn it on. Good clunk there. Okay. Come on. Hey, there we go. We got a picture. All right. The snow even looks good on this TV, and it is set for channel 3, I noticed. And I've got the RF input connected to the Nintendo. So I think we're good to go with this. Let's just see what the AV looks like if we did want to hook up to AV. Okay, little shimmer there, a little shake, but nice gray picture there with nothing connected to the AV. So that's good. It's nice and clear at least from my viewing angle. So let's go ahead and switch back to the TV and let's play some Super Mario Bros. Maybe. Maybe not. It's trying to play. Hang on a second. Let me blow in the cartridge. Okay. Now let's try it one more time. I wiggled it around in there. See if that works. Hey, look at that. So I need to clean probably the card slot on the NES here. But anyway, that is working. And I can tell right away from the graphics. First of all, the picture is good. There's no doubt about that, but it is a little hot. It's too oversaturated. So let me see if I can tweak that. Okay, well now I've tweaked it and it looks quite a bit better. The hue was turned all the way to one side, the brightness was turned all the way up, the picture was all the way down, so I kind of leveled things out in the middle now, and now it looks much better and really sharp indeed. And I also found out what the erase and add do. They erase and add the channel. If I hit erase here, you'll see that it changes minus there on 3. So that deletes 3 out of the pre-programmed channels, you know, when you're skipping around. And then if I hit add, it puts a plus next to it. So I'm assuming what that is it just adds or deletes channels manually instead of going through a scan algorithm like TVs did later on. But anyway, this looks really good now. No complaints whatsoever. The picture is sharp. There's some minor distortions around the edges of things, but not enough to really cause me a problem. I hope this is coming out okay on the video because it looks really, really good in person. Let me just go ahead and fire this up. And since I have it hooked up, and we'll test the sound out as well. Oh yeah. There's nothing like playing the original hardware. I play this on emulators all the time. And, you know, there's always a little bit of a lag, even though it's very minor. When you go back and use the real system connected to a real TV, it's just kind of magical. Oh yeah, this is great. There's just something nostalgic about it that comes back and just smacks you right in the face. So many hours playing this game. It's just kind of, whoops, missed it. Anyway, cool. One level of Mario down, and I would say this TV is working fine. I'll just do a little cleanup on it, a little Windex here and there, maybe bust out the Q-tips and get the grime out of this headphone jack and so forth, and this TV will be just fine. Okay, now it's time to take a look at this older TV. It's the Sony Trinitron TV from the 70s. I'll get to the model number in a second because I don't see it on the front. But this is what the front looks like. The TV, the picture itself is offset. The reason for that is, of course, you needed to have all of these analog controls over here on the side to make it work. So, of course, we've got the VHF and UHF tuners, power and volume. This is power. Sorry, this is picture. Just like on the other one, there was a picture adjustable knob as well. Something called AFT and auto here. AFT, I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I'm not sure what AFT would be. Auto something tuning? Is it auto frequency tuning maybe? And then down here we have the knobs for hue, color, and brightness. And then 2 earphone jacks. And that may be because back in the day, you might have wanted to listen with some, might want to have two people be able to listen on headphones. And so I'm guessing these are two separate earphone jacks for two people to listen without bothering mom and dad in the other room reading their newspaper. And this is, of course, solid state. So it is a lot heavier. The electronics inside are going to be bulkier, fewer ICs or no ICs, maybe one or two. But yeah, this is going to be, quite more components on the inside than on the inside of the pink TV. Now, not only is this TV really period for the 70s, but also it's very similar to the one that I had when I was growing up. We had a 13-inch color TV. It was the only TV in the house, so everyone kind of had to crowd around and get close so they could see everything, watch Hee Haw or whatever else you wanted to watch. Lawrence Welk, I remember watching when I was really little, 2 or 3 years old. The other thing you might be able to see is this handle on the top, which actually I've been using to lug this thing around because it is so heavy. So the other one had the handles on the side. This one had handles on top. The only unfortunate thing with this is that meant that you can't really stack anything on top of this TV. Other than that, that's all there is for the front of the TV. Now on the back of this TV, there's a little bit more going on. Of course, we don't have any composite input. We only have UHF and VHF. That means whatever I want to hook up to this, if I'm going to be connecting something through an RF signal to display on the TV, I'm going to have to use a Balun, I think is how you pronounce it, which is one of these little doodads that goes on the back to convert the 75 ohm signal to a 300 ohm signal so that it can be fed into where you would connect the UHF and VHF antennas. But there are also a number of other controls. First of all, there's a Sony sticker here, which is, I don't know if you can see that I can't even see it from this angle. I can see it says Sony. I think there's a serial number here, but I can't really see it. I'm looking at an angle here. Same caution up here, and this one was manufactured in October of 1976. So that's pretty interesting. So these two TVs are almost exactly 10 years apart. Isn't that something? I did not plan that. I didn't know that when I picked these up. And then there are some additional controls here for red, green, and blue, tweaking those colors there. And then over on this side, that says pin. I'm not sure what that is. A vertical hold, vertical size, and vertical... I can't see it. Okay, that says vertical center. And then back here we have something that just says screen, I think. Again, it's hard to see. I think that's SCRN. And down here we have horizontal stat, I believe. The other nice thing that you saw a lot on these TVs, these older TVs, is the ability to wind the cord on the back here. So it has these little hooks here that you can wind the cord around to keep it out of the way if you were taking the TV over to grandma's house, for example, again, to probably watch Lawrence Welk. Okay, now it's time to test out the 1970s Sony Trinitron. And to do that, of course, I've hooked up a period system. This is my Atari Heavy Sixer. This is one of the first Atari 2600s, what they later became to be known. Originally, it was the video computer system. But this was one of the first models to be released, and you can tell because, well, there's lots of reasons. I'm not going to get into this because I'll probably do a video on this later. Anyway, I figured this was very period to go with this television. You would have seen these paired together because the Atari 2600 was released in 1977. So late 76 TV with the 2600 here. Pairs up beautifully, and I know exactly what this game looks like. This is Pitfall, and I played the heck out of this. Still super fun to play, and really enjoy it. So let's go ahead and stick this in. Oh, that went in really easily. I guess that's a well-used 2600 apparently. Anyway, let's go ahead and turn the TV on now and see if this works. Okay, I'm definitely getting some hum, but I'm not picking up any high voltage on the screen, and I don't see anything. Picture. Sometimes these controls can be a bit the pots can be a bit corroded, but I should be seeing something. And of course, this is when the landscaper next door decides to blow some leaves or whatever around. Good grief, that's loud. All right, well, it looks like I'm going to have to crack this open. So far, so good. Voila, or voila, I guess, as the case may be. Wow. Okay, let me move this over and we'll get a closer look at this masterpiece of Japanese engineering. Well, and here is the Sony Trinitron TV. I'll try to get a few pictures of some things inside of here for those of you that like this kind of stuff. But yeah, solid state for sure. There's capacitors and resistors all over the place inside this thing. And I'm not a TV expert or even a CRT expert, but there is some interesting things going on here. Number one is the amount of dust that's inside of this thing. If you look down here, for example, I don't know if you can see that without the light. Maybe if I move over a little bit, but yeah, you can see the dust that's built up on this control right here. That's all just dust from the static electricity. This thing is loaded with dust. So I don't think it's necessarily because it was in a dirty environment or anything like that. I think just over the years, dust has gotten in there because these CRTs do just attract dust and dirt and things like that. And then another interesting thing to me is back here where the antennas plug in on the backside, you would think that they would, solder some cables on or something. And I mean, I guess they did, but really, this is probably hard to see, but on the back here, it's really just some antenna wire that comes in. And this is coax that comes in off of the bottom one, the VHF, and the UHF just has this antenna wire, and those get fed over here to the tuners. And even this is just coax. So if we zoom in a little bit here, I don't know if you can see, but that is just a coax cable that's soldered onto a, and it's loose even, but it's soldered onto a RCA jack here on the tuner. And then, so yeah, I'm seeing those all over the place. There's another one up here. It's just an RCA jack. Yeah, even here, let's see. Yeah, down here where it goes into the tuner, it's just an RCA jack. So that's so interesting to me. So on this side, we just have the tuners. I don't expect there to be anything wrong with these. These are manual tuners, kind of analog tuners. And yeah, I don't expect there to be anything wrong there because we're not even getting high voltage on the screen. Now, I'm assuming this board on this side is probably for the high voltage stuff. We've got the horizontal center up here, which was not exposed. And then those other controls over here, like vertical hold, vertical size, vertical center, and so forth. Here's that pin connector that I was talking about before. I'm not exactly sure. P-in, what could P-in be? There it is. What is P-in? I'm not sure, but yeah, there's all that. And so I'm going to be taking a look at all of these capacitors and resistors in here on this board and just see if anything has maybe either shorted closed or open or failed to open. I don't know. We'll see what's going on. But yeah, I'm going to be taking a look probably at that board and see if I can find anything wrong with it. And then over here on this side, behind the antennas, I'm assuming this all has to do with color and things like that. Wouldn't expect that to be the issue, but you never know. Maybe there's something on that board that is causing an issue. You never know. Now, one thing I've always heard about from people that are familiar with these TVs of this vintage, like Adrian Black and others, is how serviceable they are. And you can see right here, Sony has graciously, and I think they did this through most of their TV lines, added a marker there that shows you how to remove the parts or which screws you should remove. It just comes right out and folds down like that. And by twisting these little twisty things, I was able to get the wires taken off. I didn't have to unplug any wires or anything. This board comes right down, and now I can see exactly what's going on. Now, there is a fuse here on the mains, but I know that I was getting at least some electricity through to the bulbs on the channel switchers, and the speaker was emanating some 60 hertz noise. So if this fuse was bad, I don't think I would get that. And I checked it with my meter, and in fact, the fuse is perfectly good. It's a 4 amp, 125 volt fuse, seems to be working just fine. That would have been nice if it wasn't and nothing worked. I could just replace that fuse. But as expected, the fuse is working okay. So I'm going to be looking around this analog power board with all of these caps and things that are here and see if I can see any caps that are bad, diodes maybe that have gone bad, as well as there's some thermistors. I saw a couple of thermistors here, so I'm going to be taking a look at those as well. Just try to do some basic troubleshooting and see if I can either visually see something wrong or measure some of these components and see if I can see anything wrong. The thing I want to do is just brush off some of this flux residue that's on the board. You can see it's, especially on this back side, it's pretty heavy. And, sometimes that can cause corrosion or connections where there shouldn't be connections. Not often. I haven't seen it too often, but yeah, it's pretty bad on this board. So I'm just going to brush that off with some IPA and a brush. Don't expect that to make any changes whatsoever, but yeah, I'll just do it anyway just to clean it up so I can see. One of the things that it's obstructing is my ability to see if there's any cracked solder joints close to the board there. So I want to just clean that up so I can have a better inspection. So I'll just go ahead and hit it with some IPA. Okay, well, that's looking a lot better now. You can actually see right down to the PCB board here where there could be cracked joints and things. Also, you notice this is dripping off all of see how dark it is, all that stuff that I got off of there. And that's good. That's what you want it to do. When you wash flux off, especially with IPA, you want to essentially rinse the board. You don't want to just spray some on and move it around with the brush, because that'll still solidify because you haven't done anything with it. It's still there. It'll re-solidify and could leave salts and different things on the board. So when you trying to get flux off a board, whether it's one that you just soldered or one like this where it's got some old flux on it that's turning colors and things, you want to make sure that you've done a rinse of the board and you've got the flux off the board, not just leaving it flat and moving the flux around. That doesn't help. Well, it helps a little, I guess, but not much. So anyway, it's good to see all of this flux coming off the bottom here, and just give it a wipe. Make sure we've got all that stuff off. And yeah, you can see how yucky and brown that flux residue was. All right, well, it's about 1 in the morning, and I've been testing basically everything on this board. The capacitors, pulled them out, tested them, looked good, or looked decent, not perfect, but decent. They are, after all, like almost 50 years old or something, 45 years old. Anyway, capacitors look good. I'm hunting around for like something that could be wrong, a bad diode or something. And then I came across the regulator. The regulator actually sits all the way over on this side of the chassis. It's mounted to this plate as a heat sink, and the wires run back around to this board here. And when I tested this, it's essentially a transistor, and when I tested it, it tested bad. So I'm going to order another one, and hopefully it gets here soon and I can continue the project. So wish me luck.
Several days later.
Okay, well, I ordered the parts for this. I ordered the regulator. It came in. But after this, I started doing some research, and I came across a YouTube channel called Shango 066. And he repairs a bunch of vintage TVs and some other stuff too. But he had a video, 2 videos actually, that where he was trying to repair almost this exact same TV set. One of them was exactly the same, and the other one was a slightly different model, but it had essentially the same guts inside. It just looked different on the outside. And if you go look up that video, it's super long. I think it's like 2.5 hours long.
Ooh, Luma Sponder.
Where he goes through, and he had the exact same problem that I was having. Everything was exactly the same. And so I went hunting around to see if I could find if any of the parts that were bad when he was doing his diagnostics on his set were the same as mine. And sure enough, they were. So he also had the regulator blown. I found that this gate over here for the horizontal was also blown just like his. And he had a couple of resistors that were blown as well. And the exact same resistors in the same place were blown on mine. And then I started checking around some of the other things, and I found that these couple of resistors here, which get pretty hot actually, a couple of carbon resistors, I wanted to take them out and test. And when I did that, one of them just broke apart. And now these are old and they get pretty hot, I think, in here. It's one of the hotter things inside the set. And so it's not surprising that they cracked or that they broke when I pulled them out, but this might have been cracked, which may have been another problem. So all of this was broken. I did order replacements for all of these, and I've put them in the board already. Ironically, these old carbon style resistors have now been replaced by these metal film resistors. These are the same. These are 10 watt or 1 watt carbon resistors, and this is a 1 watt metal film resistor. So much smaller profile. I hope these work. I don't know. I'm used to seeing the bigger ones like you can see on this board. DigiKey said this was a 1 watt resistor, 1 watt 10K resistor. So I'm taking them at their word. We'll see what happens when I eventually get to the point where we engage the flyback and see if those resistors pop on me. Okay, so all of that being said, one of the things that he said in his video was regarding the filter caps on this thing. And so let's just hear what he had to say.
So I'm wonder this capacitor here, 470, and this 10 are both rolled together into this big black one. I wonder if that sucker was shorted. The TV had sat for 30 years and that sucker needed to be reformed. And when they turned it on, it cremated this regulator. I'm going to change out the regulator and let's see how it operates.
So I was thinking about that, and that may be the common thing between these sets is that someone turns this TV off for, like he said, 10, 20 years, something like that. And these resistors that haven't been charged in a long time form a short. And really, you should take these off sometimes and reform them, or go through a process of delivering small amounts of voltage and then kind of work your way up to get these capacitors back into shape. And what could have happened was someone could have turned this on after 20 years. There could have been a short on one of these filter capacitors, and then that could have blown up all sorts of stuff on the inside. So that's one theory. I don't know if it's true. There was one thing that was different in his. He had a blown Zener diode on the board. I can't remember which one it was. Mine is okay. At the end of the day, he actually had to change his flyback because this bar that holds the flyback in place was broken. And every time he tried to power his setup with the flyback that had the broken stabilizer bar here, there was a resistor right over here that blew. And so what I'm hoping is that my flyback is still okay, and that with these repairs, I'll be able to actually get this set working. It's probably only a 10% chance that it actually will work, given the fact that everything on his were exactly the same things that were broken on mine. Hey, I just want to break in here and point out, did you see what I just did? This is a good time to talk about safety real quick. I just moved that wire up on top of this metal plate, which is part of the ground plane, and that's going to come back to haunt me in just a minute. So again, as a reminder, if you're not comfortable working with electricity and especially high voltage in these CRTs, stay away and don't bother until you have more experience. Anyway, on with the show. So I'm guessing, I think the definition of crazy is to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. So I am not expecting this to work, but we're going to give it a shot. All right, I think I'm ready to try this just so I can measure the voltage and see what the voltage out is. The voltage out of the emitter should be 115, I believe. Okay, let's just turn it on. See if it blows up. Cross your fingers. Hope not to die. Okay. Something happened. I turned it on and I got a buzz and then it went off. So yeah, I hope you saw what happened there. I actually shorted out the circuit by not protecting that wire with some tape or something. And that's what caused the blown fuse. And I didn't realize this until later after I was done recording. Well, I've just been testing this and it appears the regulator blew immediately upon powering this up. So, and I've only got one original regulator left. All right, so here's where I'm at. This is live, so I've got to be careful, but essentially the voltage that is being fed into the regulator is too high. And I can look at that right here on the board on this side of the diode. You'll see it's 166 volts and it should be 148 volts. And so I think what's happening is that higher voltage is getting fed into the regulator. And so it's spitting out like 148 volts instead of 115 volts. So essentially we've got like a cascading issue here where you're feeding in too much to the regulator. I think in some cases it's causing the regulator to blow. But definitely the right voltages are not getting fed back into the board, and hence they're not getting fed back into the flyback. The flyback is generating a lot of the voltages for the other parts of the system. So until I can get the right voltage getting fed into the system, it's not going to work. So after testing out just about every component within this particular power circuit here, I finally called in to Big Guns. I called my friend Jim to come over, who knows a lot more about electronics than me, and I thought he could help me diagnose the circuit. And sure enough, we found one component I didn't test, and that was a potentiometer, which I didn't pull out and actually thoroughly test. So we cleaned that potentiometer, and we also connected a load to the circuit, because without a load, the voltage could just kind of run up unregulated to a much higher degree than it would if it had the proper load connected. So we hooked up a light bulb in the circuit to create some load, and then it worked. Progress, I love it. Okay, well, it's been a few days and I've got the some parts in the mail. I've got this SCR back here that was failed finally, and I've got that hooked back up. And so based on the previous experiments with the light bulb, hopefully everything is working now. Not everything, but at least the power circuit is working. And with this SCR in place, that'll be putting enough draw on the circuit to keep this at 115 volts. So we're plugged in and we're getting about, oh, that's not good. Oh, wait a second. Okay, wait a second. So this pot up here, this horizontal center, when I touched it, it went back to close to the right voltage. Let me see if I can adjust the voltage here and tune that in to 150. Oh, look at that. It is changing the way it's supposed to now. I'm gonna adjust it just to a little below 115 for right now. That's just about spot on. Yeah, but this pot up here, this horizontal centering pot, when I just moved it a little bit, it freed up. I guess there was some corrosion here or something. And this was the pot in Shango. Oh, smoke. Ooh, that's not good. Some smoke coming right from here. This is the pot that I was about to say in Shango's video, this pot was getting super hot on his video. I don't know. Let's see if it's, oh, holy crap. Yeah. Oh, ouch. Yeah, that's hot. I wasn't sure at first if it was hot or sharp, but it's hot. So something is going on here, either with the pot or something, but for a second there, I had 115 volts, which is what I expected to see. So I think this is progress, but I'm going to take this pot off and clean it really, really well. And hopefully there wasn't anything else smoking. I'm going to go back and look at the other tape and see if I can see what's going on. Okay, so I've hooked up the connections that I think go to the flyback and the CRT, and I'm just going to go for it for a few seconds at least and see if I hear any high voltage. And if something blows, then I know I've got to do some more work. What I don't want to do is replace this pot and then something else blows later and I've got to get another part, like I'm going to get some parts. I'm just going to get, whatever parts I need and hopefully shorten this process a little bit. So I'm just going to turn it on for a few seconds, and there will probably be some smoke coming out of this horizontal center, but I don't know if that's just stuff burning off of it. It's just getting really hot, but I think it'll be okay for a few seconds. So plug it in, turn it on, and listen for high voltage. See if anything blows up. Here we go. Keep your fingers crossed. Whoa, 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 whoa. Something else is smoking now. Well, now it's smelling good and smoky in here, but this is the original resistor, or there was 2 of them in there, and I've replaced them with these. And I'll try to get in there so you can see what's going on. You can see these are metal film resistors, and you can see the one is completely burnt out at this point. So, and the other one's pretty charred. So I'm going to see if I can find some beefier resistors. These were supposed to be the correct wattage resistors, but apparently they're not. So I'm going to order those as well. Even though the SamsFax schematic, say that 10 times fast, clearly states that these should be 10K 1 watt resistors, there must be a difference. So one of 2 things, right? Either there's a big difference in the carbon versus the film resistors, number 1, or there's something else going, there's some short somewhere else that's going on causing those things to blow. So I replaced those with some 2 watt resistors, and I also have some wire around 3 watt resistors, which are quite a bit chonkier. I don't know if that's the right technical term, chonkier. They're quite chonkier. My fear is that those higher wattage resistors, could just cause something else to blow potentially if they work. The other thing that I did was I replaced this potentiometer. This is a military spec potentiometer. That's I forget what the wattage is here. It's a pretty high amount of wattage, but brand new. I'm going to see if this thing gets hot, and if it does, I mean, it can get a little hot. It's obviously supposed to get hot, I think, from what I've seen from other sets of this type. But I'm going to see if it gets anywhere near as hot as the one I took out, or whether it starts smoking. I'm going to do that first, measure the voltage, make sure I'm still at 115 volts, and then I'll hook the flyback back up and see if those resistors blow again. And I guess just see where we go. I'm pretty much at the end of my rope with this set. If I can't get any progress at this point, I'm going to have to assume that the flyback is probably bad. I've done some more testing to the board that goes on the CRT just to make sure there's not something blown there. The CRT itself could be faulty in some way. It's hard to know for sure. I've put probably $80 or so into this set so far. This potentiometer, because it's such a highly rated potentiometer, and kind of hard to find. I mean, this thing alone cost, I think, $17 or $18 or $20, something like that, plus shipping. I can use this in other projects, so I'll take it out if this doesn't work. But yeah, it's getting expensive, and I've got some other ideas of what I can do on this set. It's likely that there's other problems going on, but anyway, just everybody keep your fingers crossed and let's see what happens. So first I'm going to test and see how hot this resistor gets, make sure I'm getting 115 volts without the flyback plugged in. Okay, here we go. Okay, definitely am getting 115 volts. Also definitely getting some whine. And no smoking yet. Oh, yep, smoke. Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to try. So again, got the resistors in here, I've got the pot in here. I just hooked up everything. I'm just going to go ahead and try it with everything hooked up. This thing may blow up in my face. Let's hope it doesn't. But this is the last thing I'm going to try because this just is not, it's beyond my technical expertise. And I really think that probably the flyback is blown. And in that case, you can't just replace the flyback. It's not like you can just go pick one up at Walmart or Ace Hardware. These flybacks are designed to work in a particular set. They're tuned to a particular configuration, and you can't just go buy a replacement without finding a set that hopefully has low hours on it that you can pull it out of and put it in to this one. So, yeah, I've got everything hooked up. Something will probably blow, and then I will tell you what my plan is for doing something with this set, because it's beautiful and I don't want to give it up necessarily. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and try it. Everything's plugged in. Let's just see what happens. Let's see what blows. Here we go. This may not be very pretty. Where's my fire extinguisher? Got the fire extinguisher out as well, just in case I start a fire. So let's see what happens. Here we go. Oh, nope. So I did get some audio there, but the those resistors down there on the flyback are smoking again immediately. So that's it. This set is dead as far as I'm concerned. Boy, that's too bad. So much time, so many weeks and hours and money spent in this thing. But, you know, sometimes it's better just to cut your losses and say, look, this is beyond me. I can't fix it. There's too many components in the path here that could be wrong. I mean, I'm happy to see that I was getting some audio out of it, but yeah, it's not working. There's too much gone. So who knows? I mean, maybe this thing was struck by lightning or something at some point and blew the flyback out or whatever. You know, you just don't know. So that's that. Well, what a bummer. I've got to admit, I'm super disappointed that I couldn't get this thing working. I had my fingers crossed that I could do something for it. And, you know, in the end, you kind of have to realize your own limitations. And there's also safety issues and other things, you know, you don't want to get in over your head necessarily. But in this case, I think really, you know, the components that I would have to replace are just not going to be available, especially that flyback transformer, if that's what's going on. You know, luckily, like I said, it heard sound. So I think that sound audio module is probably okay. The tuning module is okay that I had disconnected for so long. I really think it comes down to the flyback in this case. So I'm going to cut my losses here. Now, I hate to get rid of this thing. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to see if I can get, I'm going to gut basically everything in this, except for potentially the tuner. I'll find a way to keep the dials here, keep those intact and put a flat screen LCD in place of the CRT. It's going to be a little difficult because obviously the CRT is rounded and any LCD that I get is going to be flat. And so this bezel here that goes around, you know, it has a little radius here that typically goes around the tube. I'll have to figure out something to do with that. But I want to really keep this TV if possible. It's the exact TV I was looking for so long. It's going to go in the 70 set. And, you know, if I do put a flat screen panel in here, then I'm going to have all kinds of inputs that I can use. I can use HDMI, theoretically, as long as the panel supports HDMI or at least VGA, maybe even composite. So I'm going to look around and see if I can find something that goes into this. I actually like taking things that are really broken, not if they're working, things that are really broken and bringing them back to life and making them look like and work like they did back in the day, even if they don't have all the guts inside. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I haven't given up on this set yet, but unfortunately for this repair, it's all over but the crying. So I would have loved it if everything had, you know, the plan had come together in this case.
I love it when a plan comes together.
But unfortunately, there's no cigar for me. The plan did not come together. And we'll move on to step 2 and see what happens. It doesn't always work out in the end, folks. Sometimes you just got to try and learn. I learned a lot, actually, from working on this set. I hope you learned something, too. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to become a patron, you can go to my Patreon page and sign up there. And also, you can subscribe to the channel or click that like button. It really does help promote the channel, allows other people to see it, and it makes sure that my content shows up in your feed more easily. So it's a win-win for both of us on that one. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Patrons receive ad-free and early access to content after the episode commentary, and of course, your name in the credits. If you liked that episode, here's a few more you might enjoy. and I thank you for your support.
End of line.